everybody out there in the interwebverse. What would that be? The internetverse.
I don't know where you were going with that.
I'm not sure where I was going with that
I got lost
either.
there too.
I got lost. Hey everybody, I am Ashley Sketha, and you are watching This Week in Android. I'd like to start by welcoming back Jeff Ammons.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Good to have you again, and Mark.
Yes, I'm very happy to be back after my tooth adventure of last week.
Yeah, that was not a vacation.
It was not a vacation at all. No, not at all. So yeah, I'm still kind of numb and through here. It's sort of still like I can't really feel this, which is kind of weird.
Wait,
but yeah.
I don't know. That's right.
No, well they say it's going to go away after a couple weeks, so we'll see.
That's scary. I don't know if I'd be. Oh yeah, I'm glad I was born without wisdom teeth.
Yeah.
I didn't have any, which was nice.
Yeah, you're
Didn't have to go through that. Yeah. So, but and also we're gonna have Rylan Barnes from ShopSavvy. ShopSavvy. What's wrong with me today?
I know you got my mouth or something.
I know.
It's catching.
It's all the Novocaine. Yeah, ShopSavvy is gonna be our app of the week, and let's get right into opening banner. Droid users, finally 2.1 hits the Droid, except for
us.
these guys.
I don't know what's going on. I don't have it. I was just checking today.
So new people, you know.
They don't like us.
Yeah, apparently not.
What it is.
They're going to push the phone to you guys last.
Yeah.
So what's the story on that? Are they doing it like in sort of...
What I've heard is they're doing about 250,000 a day. And you're saying there's about 2 million users, so like 8-10 days, something like that. But I've heard they're having issues, so I'm not necessarily going to jump on the boat right away. Yeah,
I've heard that people who are doing the manual update are having really serious processor slowed, like frame rate issues.
Really?
Yeah, like not to the point where the phone's completely crippled, but noticeable enough to where people are like, "Hey, why's my Droid so slow?"
Well, because this was a story a couple weeks ago that we had on the show, and we were talking about. I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago. Because I was on the show.
Yeah, because you were here.
So it must have been like 2 weeks ago, and they were saying, and they had a problem with the rollout, and the press release was very non-hopeful. It was very much like, "Yeah, we'll get back to you. We're not sure when it." It wasn't like, "Oh, it'll be out soon." It was like, "Yeah, we'll get back to you. We're not really sure."
Yeah, it's like it kind of read like there's problems.
Yeah.
Like we'll figure it out at some point. It wasn't even like soon. It was like we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. The article I saw said people were testing different. I think there were games and apps, and it went from about 60 frames per second on 2.01 or whatever it is, to 30. So it was like half the frame rate.
Oh wow.
And 30 is like maybe not noticeably choppy unless you're looking for it, but it's not good.
Yeah, no,
it's probably noticeable. I'm just guessing.
Is a very serious difference.
Yeah,
it is.
Serious enough. I probably won't update till I hear that it's been resolved.
Yeah, I'm curious if any of the lovely guests in our chat room have gotten the 2.1 update and have that problem or have not had that problem. Feel free to pipe in and let us know. But the next thing, I saw this and I was like, you sent it to me like about an hour after I read it, and I was like, oh, Mark's gonna be so excited. Apparently, there's been some rumblings that Google's finally doing something about the OS fragmentation that we talk about every single week.
Almost every week, yeah.
I mean, just about. If you're here,
I think
we're
we talked
talking
about it last week.
Yeah, we
too,
talked about it last week too, and with Michael Schneider from Mobile Roadie, and I guess Engadget had sort of an off-the-record chat with some people who were quote-unquote in the know about how they plan to stem the fragmentation of the OS. So they're going to start. They started with Maps by taking it and putting it in the Android market, and they're going to start doing that with more core components.
So they're basically chopping up the operating system.
Yeah.
Or what where the line of
the
where the operating
default
system
applications that come with.
And they're starting to push those things into the App Store, or sorry, the marketplace, the Android market. So basically they're decoupling all that stuff to get rid of this fragmentation.
Yeah.
And then that you're going to
How far
end up
down are
with.
they going? Does it say how far down they're going in terms of?
I think that it's going to be almost
examples.
Anything that can be pushed into the marketplace will probably, if I had to guess, would probably get pushed into the market.
Yep.
And then that way they're saying like, when Google like rolls out a new browser or they roll out, the updated maps that they had, they don't have to wait for every single manufacturer to go through their firmware update approval process.
Right, I can just download it.
Right, you can just go get it. So, which is much better.
Yeah, they should have been doing this from the beginning, probably.
Pretty much,
they probably realized that themselves.
I'm guessing they probably didn't because they just wanted a full package they can just hand to a phone manufacturer and say, here it is, and just install this on your phone, as opposed to install this and then make your selection of all these applications and then
Yeah, they probably
against
didn't
users.
anticipate how severe the fragmentation issue was going to
Yeah,
become
that's
so
my
quickly.
guess. So now
So
they're focusing on it.
I know in part that has to do with the sort of breakneck speed that Google has been releasing all of their dessert-titled releases.
Oreo,
So
gingerbread.
yeah, they have like right now they're working on Eclair, and then it's they're gonna have Froyo, which apparently the Evo 4G, the Sprint Evo 4G is working on Froyo. They're developing on Froyo right now. But one of the big things that they're saying is that Google has now sort of gotten through that initial phase of releasing these updates so much. And so now we're going to see more of an Apple-esque or an iPhone-esque approach to it, where you're getting like 1 or 2 major updates per year, which will also help kind of stop the bleeding in terms of all this fragmentation. Because I think right now there's 4 or 5
There's at
different,
least 4.
yeah, there's 4 or 5 different fragmentations of the OS. So it's nice to know that users are not, their complaints and their concerns are not falling on deaf ears.
Yeah. Now Google clearly recognizes that they have a problem with this, and they're moving. I'm glad to see them moving to address it. So.
Yeah.
Sure. I think we're still going to be stuck with different kernel versions, though, or different release versions, because you're not going to be able to. Well, actually, it depends on how they do it, but I'm saying you're probably not going to be able to backport like Maps application to 1.5 or whatever, because it's just not going to run on that hardware.
Right.
But we will have the ability where if you upgrade, or even if you don't get the upgrade from your phone provider, if you don't get the 2.1 upgrade, you'll still be able to use most of, or if not all of the apps.
Right. Like basically,
So moving
if your phone
forward will
has
probably be okay.
Yeah, like if your phone has the capability to be upgraded to, like, let's say 2.1,
Yeah.
then you're going to be able to get the same things everyone else gets at the same time.
Right, that'd be my guess.
Which I think is the most important thing. I don't necessarily, I mean, I think people know that their phones are going to become outdated at some point, but in terms of, I mean, using the Droid as a perfect example, in terms of people saying, well, how come I don't have that update? Like, my phone is capable of it.
Yeah.
And people are just like, well, just, because there's a million things going on and, we're slowing the frame rate down on your phone. Sorry. Like, like now, instead of having to go through, let's check every single Google app that comes with that update to see if we've broken anything, it's going to be a much more streamlined process. So I think everybody, at least who is kind of aware of the fragmentation of it and is, developers, I mean, even that's a really good thing for them as well.
Yeah.
So it's
huge.
less for them to worry about, which is nice. And I also heard that what was it about? With the HTC lawsuit, that they're going to hear, they accepted, and they're going to hear.
The court accepted to hear, basically give them.
They're going to hear, they're going to give them a hearing, and then.
Now, which court would this be? Do you know?
I think it's the ITC.
Okay.
And they want to hear their, verifiable, which they want to know about all the patents and everything. It's just like a hearing, preliminary hearing about it, but they did accept it, so that's interesting to know. And
Well, I think it's an important case. I mean, this is not just a little case. This is a big case.
it's a big deal.
And I think it needs to be resolved quickly, one way or the other.
Do you hear Apple got sued?
Yes.
For multi-touch?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. What is? Which is really funny.
A company in like Asia
exciting.
sues them for
Yeah, I think
their
it's Taiwan.
Hey, by the way, you're totally infringing our patent.
Yeah, see? What goes around comes around.
Yeah,
Karma
I was just like,
comes
oh
back.
man, like that just didn't seem like a good idea to just start like all of a sudden. Now that the Evo's out, all I can think is like somebody at Apple got wind of that and was like, oh, we gotta stop this. Like we can't have this phone coming out. Like this is bad news. I just see like the panic room. Like, we're going to DEF CON 1. Like it's everybody's like Steve Jobs is like wearing a captain's hat. They're all freaking out. Somehow I imagine Apple to be in a submarine. I was
trying to track that too.
Somehow like, it's
I
like
think
Hunt
more
for
like
Red
an
October.
airship.
Yeah, or an airship.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
like
would
that.
work,
Yeah, an airship captain. Steve Jobs, the airship captain. I think that's.
Like a big Zeppelin.
Yeah,
Like the Apple logo on it.
I
floating
would
through the
love
sky.
nothing more than to see somebody draw a cartoon of that.
lasers.
That would be an amazing comic book to put in the iPad store.
Someone send us that.
Yeah,
We'll,
somebody please send us
us
that.
I would love that as well.
Feel free to send us an illustration of Steve Jobs as
Commander
an
of the
airship.
Zeppelin.
Yeah, commander of the Apple Zeppelin. And then I'm totally going to gush over something completely stupid, but I saw that they were testing an Oregon Trail app. Gameloft is like developing an Oregon Trail app, and it looks really good. Like the one on the Palm Pre is like not very good. It's kind of terrible.
Yeah.
But man, it's so cool. Like I'm so excited.
Grade
I love
school.
8-bit game, like the really old, yeah, like King's Quest and everything. I'm like
Oh man,
I'm super excited.
That's
It sounds
pretty
really dumb, but I like.
No, I got it.
I'm
There's
so
something
jazzed.
to that retro aesthetic.
There's something about
Yeah.
shooting a virtual buffalo and trading it for clothes that just hits me right here. I'm not exactly sure why.
It's special.
It is special. Well, I think, yes, exactly. Sam Ben Salem in our chat room says, you have died of dysentery. So that's a little
for
too
that.
soon.
Appreciate
So
it.
you've died of cholera. I want to get right to this because I'm really excited about our app of the week. So let's go to app of the week. That music is so
We have good
like,
music for app of the week.
I know, it's like it's really cool. Well, our app of the week this week is ShopSavvy. If you haven't heard of it as an Android user, you should, because I think it's fantastic.
I got it on my phone.
You got it on your phone.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, we have today via Skype. Our guest is Rylan Barnes, who is the co-founder of Big in Japan, which is the company that oversees the development of ShopSavvy, and he is the lead developer for Android ShopSavvy. So how are you doing today, Rylan?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Good.
You good?
Your app uses the camera to scan the barcodes of products and then return pricing for that product across the internet and, if I'm not mistaken, in brick and mortar stores as well in your area.
Correct.
So people can effectively you've literally developed the perfect app for my mom. Like, she is such a price shopper. Like, she loves to do that. So it's really cool that you've created something that has the ability to do that without having to actually physically go online and say, okay, like, I want to buy a flip camera. And, you have to do all that legwork, and this app does it for you. That's so great.
Does she have an Android phone?
She does not, but it's funny. I was putting together the rundown for this week, and I was telling her about this app, and she's like, "Oh my god," because she's up for an upgrade, and she's been asking me what phone to get, and I keep telling her to get a Hero on Sprint. 'Cause she's on Sprint, and so I'm like, get a Hero, and now she wants to wait for the Evo. She's like, "Well, I think I'm gonna wait for that Evo," and I'm like, "Oh, you're so close to my
Don't
own
play that
heart."
game.
Yeah, like I know. I was like, we just talked about that. Don't wait. Because she's like an old Palm Centro, and it rings sporadically. But no, I was telling her about this. She's like, "Oh, I think I might have to get an Android like right away. Then, like, maybe I won't wait." So
Yeah.
she's pretty excited about it. So why don't you explain a little bit about the development process of ShopSavvy, and like if you could talk a little bit about you won the Google Android Developer Challenge.
Right.
So maybe if you want to talk to us a little bit about that process as well.
Well, that was actually a pretty fun process. It was a bit of a death march, though. I was doing that nights and weekends because I still had a day job back then. Winning that challenge actually made it a lot easier to quit the day job. But I don't know. In general, we just kind of follow. We don't really have much of a process. We just kind of have what I call the chaos methodology, where we work on whatever needs to be worked on at that point in time, and it might be different tomorrow. We just kind of roll with the punches.
Very nice. And what made you co-founded Big in Japan with? Is it four other people or three?
Oh, there's two co-founders, but there's three of us today.
Okay. And so when you co-founded Big in Japan, like, what was the idea behind it? Was it to specifically develop that app, or was it what's Big in Japan's like mission statement? I mean, what are you guys looking to do ultimately?
Well, we're dealing with two different ideas right now. We have Big in Japan, which effectively is building ShopSavvy, but ShopSavvy is kind of its own separate show. Big in Japan, we're kind of positioning to be more of a publishing concept, where we can actually use the resources that we have actually developed and put in place, the contacts that we have actually built, all the experience and everything that we've kind of come across, and help get other applications out in the market, and just kind of leverage all of that together. It's going to be a bit like the book publishing industry. but for applications, trying to focus on these third-party developers, let them do what they do best, but help them fill in the missing pieces to their puzzles.
Very nice. Well, that's pretty cool. Like give them a place to be able to get their name out there, and instead of just being on like a little blog. And that's a really good idea.
Yeah,
that's a really good idea.
Thank you.
So what kind of functionality is there? I mean, obviously the barcode scanning is the main feature of ShopSavvy, but what other types of functionality do you guys have within the app?
Okay. Well, we do have a big focus on barcode scanning, and that is what we're known for. And we recently added the capability to do 2D barcode scanning, so QR codes. That's not necessarily something we're promoting. It's kind of a nice add-on if you know about it, but we really do think of ourselves as more of a shopping app. That's been our focus. We're not just trying to be a barcode scanner. We think the real value is actually building the data and actually informing the users and getting them to where they ultimately want to go.
And do you guys? I know I had mentioned to somebody this week about ShopSavvy, and it was funny because the very first thing that came out of his mouth was, "Oh, I tried that app and I downloaded it and I scanned something at his grocery store, like a box of cereal." And he was like, and I wasn't really feeling it. It was okay, like it was all right.
Right.
And when I went to your website to do more research on the app, hilariously enough, in your frequently asked questions section, it says, like, basically, don't scan stuff like that. So for our uninformed viewers, explain a little bit about why maybe groceries don't exactly work the best on, or what does work the best for ShopSavvy.
Well, groceries are definitely our hardest product category. Most of the data that we have comes from the internet, and to be honest, most people use the application for internet pricing. They're already pretty, I guess, savvy about where to get it cheapest locally. Pretty much just go to Walmart, really. Well, they do make that decision pretty easy. Now, groceries typically aren't bought online. That data is pretty hard to get at. And even if we could get at it, it's really hard to manage it because they change on a daily basis. They're different from store to store. One store that might be 10 miles away from a sibling store has completely different prices. And you think how many times you hear them yell out price check. They don't even know their own prices sometimes.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah. Now, there's a few other characteristics that make what we do a little difficult. For example, clothing is another difficult category for us. That's another thing you typically don't buy online. The data is pretty hard to get at. A lot of clothes are actually only sold by one store. Like, for example, 9 West. That's the only place you can buy their shoes. And
right.
Even if you could get their data, it's not really going to do you much good to scan that barcode because, well, you're holding it in your hand. You know what price it is. And it's not going to help you to know. It's not helpful to tell you what you already know. There's also a few other caveats. A lot of clothes actually will they use the same barcode for different sizes, different colors. If you wanted to actually try and buy a shoe online, you actually have to specify the size and things like that. So that makes it difficult. The one-liner nutshell explanation that we give to people, though, is generally try scanning something that's $20 or more. There's a good chance that we actually have the data on that.
Very cool.
That's also another characteristic of the internet is buying really cheap items like $3 items. The shipping is going to be $3 too, so it's a lot less worth your while to actually focus on those small items. Now, our biggest disadvantage is that when people are trying ShopSavvy out for the first time, they're thinking, okay, barcode, I need a barcode. Everybody goes to their pantry first. And they try it out, and they have disappointing results, and they just stop there. So,
we have a question actually from the chat room. Is ShopSavvy going to add a check-in feature in the future?
I would have never thought of that.
No, I guess you're referring to like Foursquare and Gowalla.
Sounds that way, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, No, we're not going to be adding a check-in feature. But but in order to actually deliver you local pricing, we do know where you are. So when you scan something, it is effectively a check-in. So,
Sure.
I mean, we're getting so we know your location and what you've scanned. So we can potentially also know what store you're in. So that's a big angle that we're working to, has a big part of our business model and the direction that we're taking this.
Very cool. And I know on your website, some of the user comments are you've got a couple of users asking for a database of their scans.
Mm-hmm.
And is that something that you think and also coupon compatibility? Are those things that you think you would like to add, or sometimes I know developers will say, like, that's something we're not really looking at because it doesn't really, there's not enough demand for it, or I mean, those kinds of things. Like, is that something you would want to add in the future to ShopSavvy, or that you really think is not something that you would want to pursue?
Oh, absolutely. Our goal is to help shoppers be awesome at shopping. So anything that helps us accomplish that is definitely what we want to do. Coupons is certainly in our line of sight. There's a lot of obstacles in our way, a lot of challenges, but don't be surprised to see coupons and also just general deals included in there sometime very soon.
Very cool. You want to ask about that lovely question
Second
by
one,
one
yeah.
for the money? I think that's great.
How about scanning automobile VIN numbers for Carfax type reports?
Oh, well, we don't want to take it too far. I mean, we don't want to dilute our message. We are a shopping application, so scanning VIN numbers isn't really going to help you do your shopping at all. We're probably not going to ever do that.
We need to get QR codes on window stickers for cars, so I can just walk through a car lot and scan it and see if it's like a couple $1,000 cheaper down the road.
The dealers will love that.
Yeah, awesome, no, the dealers are like, no, this is a terrible idea. Like,
they would never.
We gotta stop this.
Covertly.
Yeah, very cool.
I have some development questions for you. So what sort of, have you developed for any other mobile devices?
Oh, yes, actually. I in fact, ShopSavvy in its earliest days was started on Symbian. It was a college project and I never finished it. In fact, I was a little discouraged, so the whole entire project kind of died out for a while until I hopped on Android. Before that, though, I did a lot of Windows Mobile development on for a few years. As soon as when I saw Android come out, I jumped on that chance for sure.
Yeah, definitely. How do
there's
you
also
find it?
iPhone development and BlackBerry development. I'm keep itching to get on the Palm Pre, but
Really?
I haven't had an opportunity to get on it myself yet.
Well, I know the phone is not capable of scanning without a third-party program. The camera itself, there's no access to the API, the camera API. Is that right? On WebOS?
Oh. Well, we've been actually, although I haven't done any coding, we've definitely been exploring some hacks that we can get in place.
Oh, very nice.
I believe it's possible.
I have a Palm Pre, so I would be excited about that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen.
How do you find working with the libraries and the hardware and all that stuff and the release process for Android versus those other platforms?
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. It really is. I timed it one day. I turned over to Jake and said, "Hey, time this," and he starts his clock. I was compiling my Android code, exported a signed package, and uploaded it into the market all in 28 seconds. Done.
Oh,
Available
wow.
to the world.
That's pretty baller.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
The bonus of having a completely open marketplace.
Exactly.
Certainly one of
Very
them.
nice. And I know you guys also have ShopSavvy for iPhone. Is there something on Android that ShopSavvy for Android offers that no other version of ShopSavvy has?
Something that ShopSavvy on Android offers that no one else does?
Uh-huh.
Well, it's definitely easier to integrate with all the other applications in Android. I mean, for example, we ultimately are dumping people out to a web browser. And on Android, we just dump them out to the default browser of the system. We don't have to pull up a web view to keep them in the app and avoid any sort of awkward experiences. When they're done with the web browser, they just hit back and they're back into the application. I mean, it's definitely easier to integrate with everything else inside Android. Android also has it makes it way easier to work with the camera, to be completely honest.
Okay.
Big bonus there.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
More access to everything. Again, open. So open. Just so nice. I've like every week our developers are just like, it's so nice to have.
Because developers like open stuff.
Yeah.
They're nerds.
They can tweak at it. That's the best part.
Yep.
We have another question in our chat room. How do you see RFID affecting your market in the next 2 to 5 years? Do you feel like that is something that you are worried about integrating with, anything like that?
Oh no, I think it's a big opportunity. I think RFID will definitely is definitely going to become more prevalent. Might even overtake barcodes completely, although I doubt that. I think one step necessary for RFIDs to be as popular as barcodes is to actually be able to use it with your cell phones. It's kind of a nice requirement there. And like in order for them to be big, people like me have to be able to work with them.
I see. Mm-hmm. And for my own curiosity, I'm very curious about QR functionality here in the States is not nearly what it is in Japan. QR codes are everywhere in Japan.
Yeah, right.
And I'm just curious, for you developing an application that scans barcodes and now QR codes, why do you think that is? Why do you think that we haven't really, because it's so simple of a concept? Like,
I would think so, yeah.
Why haven't we, as a society or as a mobile smartphone using society, embraced QR codes yet in the way that maybe Japan has?
Well, I think it's just a matter of time, to be honest. Well, let's face it, their phones have always been a little more advanced than ours. Probably even more than just a little bit more advanced. And QR codes and your phone they're just a marriage made in heaven. I mean, they're just perfect for each other. So the fact that that they're ahead of us, then that makes sense to me. QR codes also have better support really great support for kanji. So I mean, to actually get in, it works much better with their language as opposed to just a regular barcode. That's all it is just a number. You have to, essentially do a lookup or something like that.
Right, I see. And that makes that makes a lot of sense.
The information is actually embedded in the QR itself.
Right. Yes.
As opposed to just a number that you can punch in. I mean,
which you then have to cross-reference to an external database.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I actually hadn't thought of that. That's a really good point. Now, for what's going to happen in the future of ShopSavvy? I mean, is there anything that you guys are working on that you can talk about?
Oh, sure, yeah. So we've got the biggest thing we've been working on lately is what we're calling Quick Pay, and this is actually going to be our in-app purchasing feature. So right now, if you actually want to buy something, you have to, pull up a mobile web browser and fill out all that information, everything from your shipping address to your credit card information. It's probably something you're going to wait until you get home to do. So what we're actually trying to build is essentially the same sort of experience you have in your actual phone's market where you're downloading apps, where you just kind of push a button, it uses your payment information that's already on file, and then it just ships to your address. Pays for it right then and there, and you're done.
Wow. Very cool. And how are you finding, in terms of 4G and LTE coming out next year, do you think, what are some things that you think might be possible with ShopSavvy, once we have these insanely fast speeds, network speeds? Are there things that you are limited to do now that you might have the capability to do once we have 4G and LTE?
Honestly, not really. ShopSavvy has been built from the bottom up to work on real flaky connections, and it works great on these connections too. Haven't having it come in faster is not going to really affect us much at all.
And your app's free, is that right?
We're what, free?
Is your app free?
Oh, yes, it is.
Free. My favorite price.
Great price. Free is a good price.
Yeah. If you were to barcode scan ShopSavvy, you can only get it for free.
There'd be none lower, unless they paid you.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd be the only other better
That's
deal.
a good
So.
business plan right there.
Jeff's like, that doesn't seem like
I
it.
don't think the venture guys would love that plan. But.
Well, I think that is. Do you have any other questions, Mark, Jeff? You curious about anything?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so
me,
much. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about ShopSavvy. And for those of our viewers who wish to find ShopSavvy, it is in the Android marketplace. It is free, so why not have it on your phone? Go get it. Start scanning stuff. Don't scan stuff in your pantry though. Over $20.
Yeah.
Go find your PlayStation 3 box and scan that, and you see what comes up for that.
Big tickets.
Bigger ticket items.
Bigger
items.
ticket. Intermediate ticket.
Yeah. But yeah, Rylan Barnes, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
You too.
Mark,
Cool.
that was very cool.
Yeah, I like that one.
Great stuff. That's such a great app. I like it. And I was really excited to have him on the show. So, you ready for some news?
I am. That's right. It's my turn now. Huh? Better get going.
I know.
Okay.
The very first one you weren't here last week for.
I wasn't. So Google clarifies revenue sharing report, says it only pays on search, not apps. So Google has clarified a recent report that stated it was paying manufacturers and carriers a percentage of search revenue from its Android applications. In fact, Google said it's only sharing revenue from search and not from the likes of YouTube and Google Maps, and that this has been Google's across-the-board business model for some time. Moco News updated its previous story, and eWeek picked it up as well. Said Google, "We share revenue on search, not on mobile applications. The same is true for non-Android devices that use Google as the default search engine." So there you have it. Google's back to not being evil this week.
A lot of people were like up in arms about that last week. They're just
They
like,
were.
oh, they're paying people for ads.
I
Like,
read
it's
about some of
crazy.
this online in between the cracks. So.
People were angry, very angry. So.
It's good that they came out and clarified that.
Yeah, like, well, I don't know. Even like last week, I think we had said, like, would it really matter?
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't. I mean, it doesn't affect me.
Yeah, and I don't really have a strong opinion either way on that.
Yeah, I gotta say, I wasn't really angry or,
Oh, well.
Yeah.
well, not feeling that one.
Yeah,
personally.
me neither. Oh,
Jeff's not getting out his
My
torch
shotgun,
and his
yeah.
pitchfork and his shotgun and heading over to
Lightsaber,
Google.
whatever it is.
Too
Yeah.
far away. Not worth my time.
Too far.
Okay, next story, since that one didn't get a rise out of Jeff.
Sorry.
Apple tastes its own medicine, gets sued for multi-touch. So we talked about this a little bit about this earlier. Since the launch of WebOS, Apple has basically been saying they're going to protect their company from others stealing their innovations.
Right.
But they didn't act for a long time, so it took them a while to basically
Yeah,
get the stick out.
Palm announced WebOS,
Yes.
and then Apple got all like, their feathers got all ruffled, but then they were all bark and no bite, where they were like, oh, we're going to protect our patents from here on out, and this and that and the other
Right.
thing, and because there's no way Apple would have ever sued Palm. Like they have too many patents.
Because Palm has a lot more patents. Yeah, you're
Huge
saying
patent
Palm has a huge
portfolio.
patent portfolio.
Huge patent
So
portfolio.
it's not worth going and hitting them in the head.
No.
No need to stir up the hornet's nest there.
Yeah, that's not a good idea. I mean, even though Palm's not doing great right now, their patent portfolio is probably their most valuable asset.
Yeah, no, I can understand. It makes sense. So anyway, Apple thought they had such a huge advantage over Google and HTC and everyone playing around the Android universe that they basically, once the HTC came out with the Droid, Apple basically said, all right, let's go. And now this lawsuits began, right? So we were talking about this earlier. So now Apple's getting a taste of their own medicine. This is the first two paragraphs of a GigaOM article. Basically says Elan Microelectronics filed suit against Apple with the U.S. International Trade Commission today, alleging that certain Apple products violate multi-touch patent previously awarded to a Taiwanese company. So, yeah, so it was filed, Elan in April of last year fired a related suit in the U.S. District Court of Northern California over the same patent, where it says a fundamental patent, which it calls a fundamental patent, and I'm quoting from the actual filing, a fundamental patent to the detection of multi-fingers that allows for any subsequent multi-finger applications to to be implemented. So all the little pinchy stuff and expand and
anything,
anything
multi-touch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
anything. And oh man, like
So-
it's I can add that to the New York Times, that whole chart thing that I had, and I had
God.
Elan right there and draw a little line over to Apple.
So Elon is seeking to block Apple from importing its products into the U.S.
That's oh man, like that's
Anything
such
that
a,
uses multi-touch. So that includes the iPhone, iPod Touch, MacBook, Magic Mouse, and of course the iPad.
Yeah.
Which I can't believe we've gone this far in the show without mentioning the I
avoiding
word.
it, I'm just
You were
saying.
trying to say, yeah, I know we're trying to not
trying to
say
avoid
it.
it.
It's not an Apple show after
I
all.
know,
Back
I
under the
know.
table.
But yeah. So what do you think? Is this karmic justice coming around, or?
Jeez. I think it's funny that that Apple is using the exact same strategy that Elan is using to try and block HTC from importing phones that violate like Apple's patents. Like they're
Right.
like basically doing the exact same thing. They're like, oh, HTC should not be able to import their phones into the U.S. because it violates our patent, and and then like Elan's like, well, neither can you. Like
Yeah.
this is like.
So how do you think this will turn out? Do you think?
You
I mean,
know
that
what?
I mean, you have to read the patent. I got that, but
Right.
But from that one sentence from the summary, I mean, if they really do have that patent, then
They'll settle. I mean,
of course they're going to settle.
there's always.
But
I mean, the
do you
thing
think
is,
Elon's
is
going to win this? I mean, it
I
kinda
don't know.
Feels to
Since
me like
we
they.
don't have any Apple fanboys here this week, I'm just gonna come out and say I hope Apple gets screwed on this one because they've been kind of trying to beat people up. Basically, I mean, I kind of feel this way about any company that's
You feel they're
trying
the big
to
bully.
abuse. Yeah, they're trying
Yeah.
to bully other companies by abusing their patent stuff. Microsoft does the same thing
Yeah.
with a lot of their software patents. And really, my concern with it is that it's sort of stifling innovation. Like if I'm saying I own this, you can't do anything with it. It's like
And it's
if
an
you look at-
idea. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not even. And that's the thing. Like, if they were to say, like, for example, if Apple were to say, "We own this operating system. It exists. We have invented it.
Mm-hmm.
Fine." But something that's an idea, that would be like, Benjamin
really
Franklin
patent off.
saying, "I have an idea that electricity can be conducted. Like, so I'm gonna go fly this kite." And then saying
You patent
from then
flying
on,
kites.
saying, yeah, like I now have a patent
All right,
on
so we're
this.
basically arguing about what's patentable.
That it's an
right?
idea, and
Right.
and I agree
So-
with you.
But-
Innovation gets
but
stifled.
you don't think ideas shouldn't be patentable? Is that what you're saying?
It's not necessarily. It's something that is so universal in terms of like.
Okay,
what-
so obvious ideas should not be patentable. Is that what you're saying?
well, it's just such a broad concept.
My main problem with patents, and this is sort of unrelated to any Android thing, is that they just last too long. Like,
What is it, like 100 and?
I think that's copyright. I think
years.
patents are like 25 years.
25,
or something
30,
like that.
I don't know.
I could be totally wrong on that. But anyway, like, if I come up with an idea today and then it's 25 years later, like, if I just sit on it and don't let anyone use it, like, that seems silly to me.
Then you're able to lock up that idea.
Yeah, maybe, and that's just going to stifle a bunch of stuff. And like in this case, it's so vague. Like the ability, let's see, the fundamental patent to the detection of multi-finger.
Well, actually,
blah blah blah.
Well, I was reading this, and this is not actually what the patent says.
Okay.
It's what the press release that Elon Microelectronics put out
Got it.
about the patent.
Okay.
So you have to actually go and read the patent to see,
Right. Okay.
are they really full of it, or is this a real thing? It's hard to tell from this
and it's sort of a balance because you do want to encourage companies to come up with new ideas, and then you want
Right.
to reward them for
Well, the
being
thing
the
is, like,
first to
that-
have
Being
that's
an
it.
exactly
innovator.
it. Because
Yeah.
if you,
Yeah.
what companies are not going to pour money into things
Right.
unless they can protect them for some period of time.
Some period of time.
Right.
And
so
the question is, what period of time is
if
ideal?
you get rid of patents entirely, then you also stifle innovation.
Yeah.
That's my problem in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So
I-
there has
I
to
read
be
a
some
paper
sort of.
by an economist once who did an analysis of what is the ideal amount of time that a patent should exist in order to both encourage innovation but not stifle innovation at the same time.
Right.
But not punish it, right?
Yeah, and I think it was like 7 to 8 years was his number. In which case we're probably still covered. I'm guessing this company didn't come up with this multi-touch thing
In the 30s
or
the 40s?
Yeah, something
Well,
like that.
Probably not.
On the
Yeah.
other thing is I mean, like for me, it's like I look at something like this kind of patent, and technology moves so fast and it changes so quick that to put a patent on something technological
All right,
just seems ridiculous.
Let's get really specific. Do you believe that multi-touch should be patentable? Yes or
No, no, I don't. I
Jeff?
think that's ridiculous.
I don't know because like I would never would have thought of it without putting some serious effort into it. So
So you're going to say maybe.
I would say maybe, but I would say like maximum should be a year or two. Like Apple should be able to milk that for a year
For
or
a year or
two
two,
with
right.
their phones, and then
That makes sense.
it
to
should
me.
be open, and then it
For
should be anyone's game.
technology, you've got to have shorter patents than 70 years, 60. I mean, even 25, even 5 years,
Right.
too long. I mean, it's just because things change. And the thing is like multi-touch as a concept is so broad. And one company might come up with a way to innovate multi-touch in a way that is something that, like let's say Apple has the lock on multi-touch. Another company might be able to innovate multi-touch in a way that Apple would have never thought of. But because they own that patent, they can't do that.
Okay, so the specific implementation of how multi-touch
like
is
maybe
done.
pinch to zoom, for example. Like that's one very pointed, focused concept. Like that is a solid idea.
So you think that should be patentable?
That seems like it should be patentable for a short period of time, like we're saying, technology-wise, like 2 years most.
Right.
And that way they can use that technology and that's fine, but then after that, floodgates are opened. Like it just seems ridiculous to patent something for, 20 years because at that point it's just completely obsolete. So, and then everyone's suing each other, and the real reality of it is I would love to have somebody in patent law. We should have them come in and talk with us because
it's a much bigger discussion than just Android.
Yeah, there's never going to be. They're not going to stop shipping. They're not going to stop importing HTC.
Of course,
phones.
that'll never happen.
Everybody's going to settle with these stupid patent lawsuits. It's all about money. Everyone's going to come out even in the end because everyone's going to have all these lawyers to pay for, and then they're going to get, they're going to have people. They're going to get money from HTC, and they're going to have to pay their lawyers, and everyone's going to break even, and it's going to be dumb. And this whole thing is just like it's ridiculous to me. Just like everybody's whining about something insane. Like I get that business-wise, patents are important to, capitalistic companies and corporations, but in reality, I mean, it just seems silly technology-wise to have them for so long.
So here's the weird thing: is so Apple basically created the iPhone with the expectations that are created by a current patent system, and I think we all agree that they did a great job. They forced the entire industry to move forward. Probably 10 years past where it might have been. I'm just guessing, but I would say 10 years. They leapfrogged 10 years ahead, and they did that. And so would they have put that amount of effort into it and been able to do that if they feared that if that year and a half time frame wasn't? I guess what I'm trying to say is if we're too strict in the other direction, would we get the innovation that Apple provided initially, which then led to things like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's good of them to catch us up to Japan 5 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, well,
I mean, so it's not like they're doing incredible things. They've moved us forward. I agree, and it's good. I think they should be allowed to sort of bilk that and get their money's worth. I think they have. And now the question is, they're beating up other companies who are even like attempting to close that gap that they've created.
Okay.
So
we could probably beat this horse for a while.
Yeah,
probably
it's like I mean, it's just I think I have a patent on beating a dead horse. So
yes. All right. So moving right.
I'll have my lawyers contact you.
Moving right along. All right. So Sprint Evo 4G won't do simultaneous voice data, then clarifies with 4G plus voice is still being tested. So HG has confirmed that the Sprint Evo 4G will not be able to use voice and 4G services at the same time when it's released. So the quote from HTC, if you're using 4G for data, you can't use CDMA for voice. Currently, the only way to do simultaneous voice and data would be through a third-party VoIP solution. However, this is not due to strict hardware limitations, so it's possible this could change with future updates.
Which basically meant that's Sprint's fault. Like it's not due to hardware limitations, so this is Sprint's issue. Yeah. Our phone can do it.
Guys, though,
it's a Sprint problem, please continue.
Okay, so as a quick follow-up, Sprint pinged the person who wrote this and said, the Evo 4G will do voice calls at the same time if you're connected over Wi-Fi, but not when you're connected over EBDO. So they claim 4G plus voice is still being tested and is TBD.
That's interesting. I'm trying to think of what the break point would be in terms of hardware or software. Because I'm assuming, I think it's on a separate span, like in terms of the megahertz or gigahertz range, whatever range it's in. I think it's separate but for the data versus the voice.
Yeah.
So that shouldn't be a problem. And then I'm guessing the transmitters are separate. If they say it's not a hardware problem, so then if it's a software problem, like why is it a software problem? I don't know.
Sam Ben Salem in our chat room says non-issue. I tend to agree with that. I don't tend to be doing something with my phone while I'm talking on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
it's kind of.
I had an example this morning actually. I was trying to coordinate something with my mom, so she was sending me pictures of things so I could choose, and then she called me while I was downloading something and it cut out. And so if I were downloading something large, like I don't know why. I would be BitTorrenting a video onto my phone for some reason. That would be stupid. But and then someone called me in the middle.
You
I
would
wouldn't
never ever torrent anything.
No, well,
too nice
okay.
for that.
BitTorrenting an ISO for a Linux distribution that's free.
Fair enough. All right.
It's also
Which
like
is something Jeff would do.
To clarify.
Yeah, just really clear.
Good.
So, I mean, if I had 4G access, that would be pretty quick. I don't know why I'd want it on my phone, but I might. And then someone called me and it broke up. It's possible.
That's
in the
true. I
realm
mean,
of possibility.
if you're mid download or say you're streaming the most recent episode of Lost, something to that effect, someone calls you, you're going to want that to continue in the background while you're
Yeah.
or like pause it and.
Or I guess if there's something really, if you're at it on speaker, right? We're all thinking that I guess we're all thinking around headsets or we got up to
I
our
never
head.
use a
You know,
headset.
so-
I'm
so, okay,
like,
so
I'm
you don't
so
use a headset.
bad.
So
Oh,
you're
God.
thinking, I would never ever,
No.
I would never basically have data going at the same time. But if you had it on a headset or you were on speakerphone and someone was, you were on, let's say I was on the phone with you and you're like going, yeah, so I got some snapshots I want to show you, do you think this wallpaper or that wallpaper? I don't know, something like that.
Someone had just mentioned Circle Wave in our chat room just said, how about buying movie tickets while talking to somebody? So you're like,
right,
what about
exactly.
this, Showtime?
Or discussing, the movie, where
And I
is
think
it playing?
As we get 4G, like people are going to be using their phones for more downloading stuff
yeah.
because it's going to be so much faster. So
I'm still getting one. Still want it the day it comes out. Even if if in the end there's no voice plus 4G, I'm still gonna I'm still going to be sitting. Not a deal breaker for me. Not at all actually.
Yeah,
I still just am desperate to have one.
All right. Next story: the HTC Incredible arrives in warehouses, but we don't have any more info other than that.
Very
So
vague.
the sneaky little boxes have arrived, and
Still haven't announced it.
yeah,
They've said nothing about it. And actually, it's weird because the in the wild pictures that they have different news outlets have had look very much like the Evo. The case is actually identical to the Evo.
Are we sure this is real? I mean, I'm wondering whether this is like a.
I don't know.
I don't think it's April Fool's. Have we discussed this before?
Yeah, oh
this
God,
is
I'll talk about that at the end because we talk about these April Fool's jokes. Compiling viewers who are not who don't have to compile information for something every week. I hate April Fool's Day now, like with an undying. My birthday is March 31st, so. I hated it anyway because when I was a kid, people would bring me empty boxes that were all nicely wrapped, and they'd be like,
happy birthday,
April
by the way. We
Fools.
didn't
Like,
know that it was your birthday.
I know, I'm 1 year older. But I can drink now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm older than that. But no, I was so annoyed with it when I was a kid, and then and now I'm I didn't realize I could be more annoyed with April Fool's Day. I was so wrong. I was proven wrong by having to sift through every article this week and be like, well, I gotta go verify. I had to fact check this week, and I was just I feel like I work for Reuters. I was gotta check all these stupid articles out and make sure they're real.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I don't know about this phone. They're saying that
Well, it says it was. Let's see. Saw no love as it was expected during TWiA. Has already begun arriving in warehouses. I guess there's a leaked screenshot.
Yeah, on Android forums, some guy who works for Verizon took the screenshot.
Oh, but a screenshot, not like a warehouse shot.
Of the order screen.
Oh,
And
so that's what. Okay, so that's what I didn't understand. It says a screenshot. I'm like, so what? Who cares?
Yeah, and it'll say
I got a screenshot too.
Yeah. And it'll say there's 4 different columns or a few different columns, and it says in stock 0, something else 0. On hand 0, something like that, and then it says on order 156,709.
Okay, so and it's not a warehouse like the end of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, no,
not
not quite.
Okay. All right, so
verifying on there.
But they still have not even announced the phone, and this has been This phone has been talked about before April Fool's Day. I mean, I've seen articles.
We know that the phone's real.
We know it
I'm wondering whether
exists.
this.
But they've never announced it, and we were expecting an announcement. At CTIA,
and there wasn't one.
Nobody said anything.
Yeah.
So you wonder if this is the LTE.
Well, it might be a marketing thing. They might just be
maybe it's
they want to do the jobs thing where it's and just so happens you can go down the street and buy them right now.
Yeah. Maybe they're looking to do something like that, a little sneaky, where it's this will maybe be
it's great. It's brilliant marketing.
3G only version.
You announce
of the
it. You can buy. Why announce it unless
buy it right now?
You can buy it right now.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's actually quite smart.
I'm very curious as to what the hell is going on with the HTC
I
Incredible?
have a feeling we'll find out soon.
I hope so, because I've got friends who have Verizon. They're dying for that phone. They've heard all about it. They've heard little things here and there, and they're like, I really want that phone.
Okay, well, moving along to the next story.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
It is. Well,
And I kind of love it.
bark, bark, woof. Google Translate for animals hits Android market. So
What an elaborate
this,
joke.
yes, this is a joke. Obviously, it's not real. But basically, if you ever want to know what your dog is saying when they bark, or what your cat says when it's purring, well, now you can. You basically put this app on your Android device, and it will translate what the animal is saying. So some typical phrases. And by the way, they'll translate for dogs, birds, rabbits,
Horses.
guinea pigs,
That's
all kinds
crazy.
of things. So some of the things some of the pre-canned phrases that they have, and I guess there actually is an Android app on the Android market for this. You can actually download it.
They put a lot of time and effort into this.
Yeah.
Like, this is a very elaborate April. This is a great April
So your
Fool's
dog
joke.
barks, and you
Google
hold
does
it
that
up to your dog, and the dog goes, "Ruff, ruff," and then your phone will say something like, "My, what a day I've had. How was yours?" As though the dog is saying it. Seriously, what's with the stick thing? It's getting old.
I
My
love
goodness, I am looking hot today.
That's a cat.
Yeah,
That's got to be a cat.
That's got to be a cat.
No
exactly.
dog would ever say it. They're very humble. And dogs are very humble.
And this is definitely a dog. I dropped some food around here somewhere.
Exactly. So I wish one of them had been steak. Like, that's just one sentence.
Or bacon.
Or bacon.
There was
Bacon.
nothing mentioned from bacon.
Yeah.
Which is surprising.
That would have been
I guess
fantastic.
it just had one that just goes, bacon!
Yeah, bacon. They should have. Could have been a great cross-marketing campaign.
great.
That would have been
I
so
feel
good.
like Google starts ramping up for April Fool's Day sometime around January.
They have to,
Like,
because
they
to
do
have
so
developed
many
that
awesome
app,
things. Yeah.
like, they really put a lot of time and effort in that.
They
And
did.
I love that they changed their website to TWiA.
Yeah.
That was really. Did you happen
did see
across
that,
that?
yes, of
That was
course.
great. For those of you who don't know, the Google, part of their April Fool's Day, they had a whole bunch of different things that they did, but Topeka, Kansas changed the name of their city to Google because they're trying to bid for the fiber.
Right.
They're trying to bid for that.
Oh, is it a
or the,
data center? It's a
the
data
super
center, I
high,
think.
yeah, the super high speed, the super high speed
Fiber
stuff,
thing.
and so to give them a little like nod, Google changed their website name to Topeka. So I was Topekaing yesterday,
Complete with a press release about how Google changed its name.
Yeah.
which is fantastic. Good,
With
good
a straight
for them.
face.
Good for them for having so much levity. I mean, I still hate April Fool's Day, but good for them for being such a huge corporation and like really getting into the spirit of things. That's cool.
funny. Okay, early build of Firefox for Android looks like a very early build of Firefox for Android. So here's a problem with developing your application in public. The source code is readily available. Next thing you know, it's out and run around and everyone's got it running and it looks terrible.
And people are naming it like a beta.
Yeah, and it's the sort of thing where people are basically taking it seriously and it's failing and falling apart. And the way, if you're a developer, you know exactly what this feels like when your stuff gets out there too early for whatever reason. Say a
You're
CEO
like,
that
how
gets
do you feel
excited
about that?
releasing
Yeah.
something early.
No
Not
comment.
that we know any of those, but anyway. And basically, it feels a little rough around the edges. And so that's sort of happened here, I guess, with Firefox.
And then I guess the Android version is called Fennec.
Oh, is that what
So
I
the
didn't
little
see that.
fennec with the giant ears that live in the
okay.
desert. It's one of my favorite type of fox.
Fennec. So it's a fox?
It's a type of fox that lives out in the
desert
desert.
fox.
Desert fox, and they have huge ears. They're like
Really?
very small, and they live out in the desert. And have giant ears, and they have the logo.
I've never
is
heard
very
that
cool.
before.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And they're very strange little creatures. They have a great little bark. It's like a yip, and they're really neat little animals. But I'm curious about this because I have a theory about developing. Even in video game community, it's been the same as well. But I think in the last 10 years or so, we've sort of seen people, in general, the public, expecting a higher polish quality on a beta, like 6, 7, 8, even 8, like shortlist 5 years ago. People would beta test something and understand that it would be incredibly buggy. They would understand that the point of a beta is to report bugs and
Yeah, I
test the
blame
product.
Google for that.
Really?
Because they left the beta tag on Gmail, for example, for
Yeah.
a couple years,
I
right?
agree.
And they just removed that a year and a half ago.
So
And
the point is the public has been trained to think that
Yeah.
a beta is it's
almost
99%
release
done.
quality.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So
and
now-
now
now you've got alpha and whatever release candidates. I think the development community understands what it means, but the public not necessarily.
right. Well, and the development community understands what a beta is, what a true beta is, But now, like, I know from my own personal experience, like in video games now, companies are pushing back their beta testing, their open beta, and even to some extent their closed beta, because the level of polish required by gamers now to beta test something before they go screaming into the forums and saying this game is horrible, it's broken, I can't do anything, and they expect to just be able to play the game out of the box and encounter minor errors.
Damn kids.
Oh, Sam, kids.
Get off my lawn.
Get off of my lawn. Don't step on the grass.
Yeah.
So, but I definitely think, well, and see, StarCraft 2, okay, that beta is amazing. And the thing is that Blizzard knows not to release that until it is super close to being ready. Otherwise, people will freak out. Like, they will panic.
Yeah.
Like, Diablo 3 is still it's early in development, but, like, they are just like, we're not going to release it until it's ready. And that's the end of the story. I mean, and people expect that now, and people expect that a lot with things like this. Like, I mean, I think that's great that Firefox is making a mobile browser. Like, I love Firefox, my browser of choice. But for people to, get this sort of, it's not even a beta, it's not a leak, it's nothing. It's just compiled code, and they're putting it on their phones, and then they're saying, well, it's broken. This sucks. Like, I'm never going to download this again. And they're writing things off when they shouldn't be. And I'm...
It's their loss. I think as Firefox, like, you just got to not care. Like, because they're doing what they want. They could have probably done a lot of stuff in-house and then released a more finished product. But I think they made the choice to release it now, let the public sort of build it. And so hopefully they get a better product out of it.
Do you think that's because of Android being so open that people have responded so well to that in terms of development and changing things?
I mean, Firefox has been on the open source bandwagon for a long time. They know how it works. Like, I don't think they are surprised by what's going on right now, would be my guess. It's possible they are. But, I mean, I think they know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
That's fair. I was just curious as to your thoughts on, like, everybody basically... saying, "Oh gosh, it's broken." Like, I know it's not a release quality, but this is broken.
Yeah.
I'm very upset.
Well, hopefully they'll get over it, and then they'll come back in a year and it'll work.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll be great. Also an interesting comment in our chat room. Sam Ben Salem is too little, too late. Opera Mini has 50 million installs. Is it? Is it too late for that? Do you think people will uninstall Opera?
I don't think anything's too late. It's still way early in the game.
That's true.
I mean, when Google Chrome came out, people said that. They're like, well, we've already got Firefox. Why would we possibly want another one to compete? We've already got Opera, Firefox. And I happen to like Chrome a lot now that I've been using it. And so if they come out with a better product, I'll probably use it.
There's always room for a better product.
Yeah.
Especially one that's significantly
I like
better.
that.
Yeah.
There's room for a better product. You should use that. That's good.
I'm sure I'm not the first person to say that.
Patent that.
Yeah, patent. Yes, I will patent that, and then 75 years later, I'll have it back. All right, next story. Panasonic says Google TV sets will be expensive. Wah. Panasonic has decided to pass on Android TVs for now because they claim it requires processing power that adds too much to the cost of the set. The hardware they're likely referring to, according to, this is from Android and Me, this article, is the Atom chipset from Intel that Sony has chosen for their internet-connected television sets. So although Android is an open source operating system, there's still a minimal set of requirements on the hardware side that manufacturers have to meet before Google will say, yes, you are in fact Android.
Compliant. It's Android compliant.
So this is a pretty big win for Intel because Android has, up till now, been dominated by the ARM-based processors since its debut. Android could run on Intel's Moorestown, but that platform will probably not ship in a significant volume this year. And it looks like customers will still be able to access Google TV through the Dish network, I guess.
Yeah, they're saying they're having like a little set-top box that'll be like
got it
that service, Google TV.
And then also Blu-ray players, which are also candidates for Google TV.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
The Blu-ray players. I like that.
So anyway, Google already has the Android market to sell apps and games. So we think this sort of thing will make an appearance on the television as well. But it's interesting that Panasonic has decided to say, yeah, we don't care.
Too expensive,
sorry. That's the first time I've heard of a major hardware manufacturer, other than, is interested in defeating Apple. I'm sure Panasonic is interested
say
in
too
playing in here.
expensive. Like I just what?
Yeah, I know. It seems strange to me too. So,
Don't you just pass that on to me? Like, isn't that supposed to be me who says that's too
Yeah,
expensive?
I know. Well,
like,
they
that's
must-
too expensive.
They
I'm not
probably
gonna pay
tested
for
it of some sort.
They
I don't
must
know.
think that they can't meet a consumer price point that's
that is
reasonable.
even close to being reasonable. Because even now, I mean, like with 3D TVs, people are paying $4,000 for.
Well, that's just it. It's like
early
it is one of
adopters.
those televisions, like high-end televisions, are one of those things.
Right.
People will pay through the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
that's
whatever
what I'm
the
saying. Like,
latest
how
thing is, so-
expensive could it be for Panasonic to be like, well, this is
And I
much
can't
too
believe it's
expensive
that
to. This is
expensive.
much.
My
much too
guess is the
expensive to do.
translation of this is just, how about we wait and see what other companies do? Like, let's not be the first ones out there, because really, there's not much to be gained in this market. I think, in terms of being the first one, you'll get the early adopters, but this is going to be something that's going to be an extended period of time. So you might as well do it right. Let someone else come in first, mess it up, fix where they've made mistakes, and then.
That's interesting. That's actually an interesting observation.
Do you also think that maybe they're waiting to see if Google TV takes off at all before
Yeah,
they
that's
start integrating it into their
You're
TVs?
right. There is
Exactly.
no first mover
Yeah.
advantage here.
That's true.
There's
Good
no
call.
reason to be out in front. When let somebody else take the arrows.
Exactly,
You go into
yeah.
those woods first. And
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you get shot, then
Yep.
I won't go.
If you get shot, let's hope he only has one.
Or I'll send the
bullet.
next guy in.
Yeah,
But
I'll
if you
send the
don't,
next
then I'll
guy
come
in.
in after you and clean up. So yeah,
That's
that
my
makes sense.
guess.
I think it's a good guess.
That's a really good point. I had not considered that.
See
Good
now,
call, Jeff.
Insights from Jeff.
I know, I like
Let's
it.
not
We should
start
have
that.
a little separate section.
Well, I was
Insights
talking
to sit in the
people,
corner
actually.
then?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we'll leave you out here. All right, so next story. Confirmed no multi-touch for Xperia X10. So apparently the Sony Ericsson Xperia X10 will never support multi-touch because of a hardware limitation.
Not ever.
Not ever. They can't do it. No software upgrade
Wow.
will allow them to do it. Which seems kind of astonishing. So basically, this is again Android and Me contacted Sony Ericsson to clarify the issue and received this response. It is correct that the X10 will not support multi-touch. However, with the X10 signature applications, the X10 offers an excellent user experience. So basically, they're like, yeah, but it's still awesome.
Yeah, no offense, Sony Ericsson, but you can't offer an excellent user experience on a smartphone without multi-touch now. Maybe they're afraid to get sued. I don't that's just
Well,
weird.
no, they just left it out.
There's no multi-touch.
I think
no.
they just didn't put it in.
Yeah.
Why?
Behind the times.
But they're not
Moving
launching
on.
it here in the U.S.
Well,
Not yet. There's
didn't-
no U.S. carrier for the phone
They
yet, and I
obviously-
can't imagine there will be.
They obviously thought it wasn't important. It wasn't because it wasn't in the original builds of Android, right?
Yeah.
So the little kit that they got from Google with all this stuff to make an Android handset, they just said,
We'll just go with this.
And then when everyone went crazy because there was no multi-touch support, and Google scrambled and quickly fixed it, and most people, I think they just basically didn't expect it to be such an uproar, and for Google to fix it so quickly. And so now, it's just an oversight. It's hardware. They can't.
Yeah,
just,
it's such a long lag time on
Yeah.
starting
I
a project hardware.
somebody just made a dumb call. Bottom line.
I don't think any U.S. carrier is going to pick this phone up.
Yeah, I think they're.
We'll see what the price point is. If it's cheap.
Oh, if
someone
it's really
probably
cheap,
will.
it's
But
$50 after
Well, the thing is,
contract
the
or whatever.
problem is that all the applications now coming out, everyone assumes multi-touch, right? So
Yeah.
and it's just going to be
Development,
baked in at sort of a
How are apps going to work? What if certain apps require
Well, that's what I'm
multi-touch
just saying.
functionality?
I think it's a
hard.
fair assumption. I was making an app for Android right now, and I had the choice to either make it multi-touch. If multi-touch was core, greatly improved the experience in that app, and I would absolutely throw it in there at this point.
Right.
There'd be no question. And if you get some phone that doesn't support it, well, that's your fault. So yeah, a little crazy.
None, zero. That amazes me. And you know what though? I got to give them credit for not being well, maybe we'll add, kind of playing that game.
Well, I don't think. Well,
They just straight up came out and was just nope,
I
still
don't
good
think there's
phone.
anything they can say other than that. 'Cause there's no way to fix it.
But I like how they were just really upfront. They were just not hey, well, we'll look into it. Sometimes you get that, we'll look into it, or we'll try. But they
However,
just
with the
straight up
X10
came out.
signature applications, the X10 offers an excellent user experience.
That's very shiny of them to say.
Very nice. Exactly. All right, so next story. My Touch Fender Le announced his comeback tour. T-Mobile told us that the My Touch Fender phone. Okay, so that's the one where they have air clapping,
air
right?
clap.
Right, okay.
Sold out fast.
Yeah, they did. So it's going to be back, and it'll be available in limited quantities. The first one sold out within 3 weeks Really? So
I
that
didn't
Clapton
realize it
phone,
sold
yeah.
out that quick. I knew
Well,
it sold
basically-
out real
I
fast.
thought you were talking about Clapton selling out.
No. No, so I don't know
He
if you've seen
sold out
you've seen
in
the
3
commercials,
weeks,
right?
I have,
Jeff.
actually.
So Eric Clapton does the commercials
Yeah.
for it, and he's basically like, "Oh, look at my apps.
Look at my cool
He's
Fender
got like his,
phone.
his-
Yeah, it's very,
Nice.
it's very Clapton-esque.
and it looks like a guitar, and it's
Yeah.
got like all these guitar apps and stuff on
Pretty
it.
sweet.
It's very neat looking.
Okay.
I have to admit.
So
it's
they
very
did,
cool.
and it apparently went crazy. It sold out like immediately,
A lot
within
of
3
Clapton
weeks.
fans.
Yeah. So if you missed out on this collector's edition, there's going to be another shipment hitting T-Mobile as early as
I think it's like
it says tomorrow here, but I don't know when this.
this was
came out.
this was like I think real early in the week, so maybe like it's out.
So
now.
it's out now,
Could
probably.
be out now.
So it's likely to be the last shipment. Oh come on, it's not going to be the last shipment.
Never know.
If it worked once, they're going to try it. They're going to milk it.
Exactly.
Right.
Oh, yeah. We found
so
some
grab
more in
one.
the back.
Yeah. Ooh, look at this. so the device is still shipping with Android 1.6, but I don't think anyone gives a crap.
No.
It's
This is all about
It's Eric
looks.
Clapton's phone,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there you go. But the T-Mobile has said the users can expect Android 2.1 this spring. So
That's pretty cool.
it's
Yeah.
kind of cool. So do you think they'll try with other artists? Other artist phones?
This one worked. Sure, why not?
I don't know that it'll be
challenging
other
phone?
artist phones, but I think it'll be niche phones like that. Like they have the guitar phone, and then they might have something that's like a Nintendo themed, like something themed,
Yeah.
or it's a Hello Kitty phone, or whatever. Like I know my cousin
That'll happen.
who's like a Hello Kitty themed
Yeah.
phone, or like
Yeah.
some kind of themed phone. Instead of having to go buy a case or whatever, it's like, and then there's
A South
apps
Park
designed, exclusive apps designed. Yeah, like exclusive apps designed for that.
Yeah.
Like if there was a South Park phone that had because SouthParkStudios.com, you can watch every episode of South
Right.
Park, but you can't download them. So
So it comes preloaded or something like that?
if it came preloaded, you could watch any episode of South Park on your phone.
Well, they wouldn't preload.
Streaming.
Actually, the reason why, they wouldn't allow it to actually reside within the phone.
Yeah, if
That's
you could
the
get it
reason why it's
streaming-
streamed.
Like if you could get a South Park Studios app and stream it, like when 4G comes out, I would consider buying that phone.
Interesting.
Yeah, the Lady Gaga phone. It comes with a hair bow.
It's like huge.
Yeah, it comes with like a little hair bow and like something.
Got like rings around it that like rotate around it. When
Yeah,
you
totally.
listen to it. So yeah, the Lady Gaga.
Comes with 2 large Great Danes.
Yeah, we could be here all day having a good time with that one.
Exactly.
So how are we doing on time here?
I think I think it's about
Getting-
done.
Coming up on it. All right.
I like this. I like.
I think we'll go to the last. You want to go to the last one here?
Yeah, the
Oh, actually,
my,
let's do 2 more because there's
Two
2
more,
more.
two
I
more.
want to talk about this double twist one because this one actually was one of the ones that I found
I'm a big fan of Double Twist.
that I really liked. Yeah.
Yeah.
So double twist for Mac adds built-in Android Market functionality. So the latest version of double twist for the Mac has a whole new Android Market element to the application. So, and it's very much like the iTunes Store for apps. You know how I'm always every week going blah 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 blah.
You don't have a
sucks.
solid play. Yeah, exactly.
So Double Twist has come out now with something which is a very iTunes slick, Apple quality user interface for the Android market. Now the weird thing is you can't download directly to your phone because it's a web-based experience, right? So you basically browse the Android market on the web, and then there's a QR code. Hey, so there you go, your QR code, which you scan with your Android phone, and then that's how you directly download. So that's how you go from your screen here to your device, and downloads directly to your handset. So I personally I think this is a great step forward.
Huge step
Yeah,
forward.
because looking at anyone who's tried to look at the Android market on the web, it's terrible.
a mess.
It's terrible.
it's
it's
not.
It's
awful.
a real mess.
It's like some goofy homepage on GeoCities.
Yeah, circa
but as
1997.
no, I'm just being
It's like-
completely serious. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
it's
not
really it's pretty bad.
So it's embarrassingly bad. So I'm glad someone is finally taking it upon themselves to kind of do this. So.
Yeah. Well,
Thank
and
you,
for
Double
people who have I have my Palm Pre, I have Double Twist because it does not sync. I like to be able to sync my stuff, my
Yeah.
music and everything. And Double Twist is actually a really good alternative to iTunes. I mean, if you don't like having iTunes on your computer, I highly recommend Double Twist. I know a lot of people who are just very anti iTunes. I mean, I don't mind it. I have it on my computer too, but I use Double Twist for all of my syncing, and it's a great application for
Yeah.
Unless
syncing.
you're using Linux and then it doesn't work.
And
Throwing
then
that out there. Let's get on
and then
that,
it
guys.
sucks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, I will be using the Double Twist application
You can
from
show
now
it to
on
me.
for browsing the Android market.
Yeah, I should be able to do that.
So okay, so our last news story of the day, if you want to call it news.
Yeah.
Our favorite April Fool's joke: the Verizon iPhone with a dual boot for Android too.
Ugh.
So this is on Fandroid, the PHA Android site, and they write, according to an anonymous tipster, Verizon has agreed to terms with Apple on the iPhone 4GA, a device that will not only utilize the carrier's brand new 4G LTE connectivity, but also dual boot Android. Yep, an Apple iPhone with dual boot Android. So, anyway, very silly. No way in hell that Jobs.
Amazing.
Jobs' head would explode if that ever actually happened. So.
Well, they were trying to justify like him and Schmidt. That's why him and Schmidt were like having coffee, and so they were like, "Oh, this is why." Like and it was, it was a good joke.
Yeah, it said Steve Jobs was reportedly fuming and furious at Verizon's request. So. Anyway.
But they do always request to have upgraded phones. I mean, they wait and then they say, okay, well, if you want to have your phone on our carrier, you got to make it better. What can you bring us that's better than, like with the Palm Pre, they said, we want the Plus title and we want it better.
It would be cool to have a dual boot phone.
I was just thinking, how would I use that? That's awesome.
I would totally use it. I completely would. I would love that.
I'd say I'd use it, but I wouldn't.
Why wouldn't you?
Because I wouldn't want to reboot my phone. It's such a pain.
That's a good point. I don't.
We can make it like if they could do it like what is the thing we use in the office here for Windows?
Oh, like a virtual machine sort of thing.
Yeah. So you can actually.
That would actually be sweet if you could run like
use it as like an app.
You just basically switch modes.
Yeah,
that would be cool. Virtual
you could run iPhone apps on.
Yeah, why not? Just have like a segmented area, like have just basically wall off one area of the phone.
That would be amazing. Android Virtual Mobile.
Yeah, the virtual
machine.
Click
on it, just all of a sudden Android.
Yeah, one of them is virtual. Probably I guess.
Probably Android.
You would have to run.
Source. Yeah, it'd be much easier.
Probably Android.
Probably run Apple. Well, I guess you're right.
Yeah, that's what I would do it. Just guessing offhand. But.
Then I'd have to get an iPhone. No, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, no, me neither. Unfortunately,
I'm still both.
I know.
So.
I'm neither. So
working on
that. Thank you. That is all the time we have today. We ran a little bit over, so sorry for those of you on a schedule. But I'd like to thank Rylan Barnes of Big in Japan and ShopSavvy, and also thank Jeff Ammons for coming on the show, giving us some development insight, good development questions. I like having you here. It makes me feel smarter. So it's always nice. I feel like my IQ points go up a little bit more. And as always, my fearless co-host.
It's good to be back.
I'm glad to have you back. I'm glad to have you back. I get really nervous when you're gone. I start panicking.
No reason to be.
And as always, thank you to the viewers out there. Like, you guys are awesome. Thank you for watching. Feel free to watch any of our other shows on thisweekend.com. We have cloud computing. We have startups. We've got Twitter. We've got a
lot of shows now.
Menagerie of This Weekend shows for your viewing pleasure. And next week,
all at thisweekend.com.
Yes, all at thisweekend.com. And next week we will be having a Google developer here.
We're actually booking guests a week in advance.
Studio. I've got guests.
That's what I'm excited.
I have apps of the week booked more looks like now 4 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
So I think I've booked through April. So I'm pretty excited.
Getting serious right
We have some really big, cool, awesome guests that are tentatively scheduled. So next week is going to be really cool. We're going to have a Google developer here. So think of some cool questions this week and feel free to send them to our Twitter. Ping us on Twitter with your questions at TWiA Android. We'll be there for you. And you can find me at HeartlessJez, Jez on Twitter. You can find Mark at
Mark Jeffrey.
Mark Jeffrey.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Ammons.
And Jeff at Jeff Ammons. I'm the difficult one. Mine has to be. Maybe I'll change it. Maybe I'll go back to my normal name. But this has been This Week in Android, and have a great week.